Hi, this is Faith. Welcome to the Faith Washington Show. I invite you to join me every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. We will discuss life, business, leadership, family, and fun, and what happens when your view of the world expands. A wide variety of guests will provide insight on how they do business, family, and leadership in their lives. So now, here's today's show. Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining the Faith Washington Show. We are live streaming on Facebook, and we're also live on 95.3 FM and 1470 AM, as well as the iHeart app. And I have an incredible guest tonight, a very good friend of mine. His name is Tim Goring, and welcome, Tim.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for coming. Tim has just an amazing history. I'm going to give you a real quick, brief rundown. And he is a U.S. Naval Academy graduate, a Marine Corps aviator, has been a bank president, as well as an just amazing entrepreneur. Currently, he runs his own business called Making Luck, and he does Sandler training for high-level executives, regular people who really want to increase their sales. And he does a fabulous job because not only does he use the Sandler methods, but he also puts in his own twists and turns, which increases what people are able to obtain from it. Just a little bit of information on me. I am a pharmacist and a biochemist and also an entrepreneur. I have my own high-level business and life coaching, and I enjoy that very much. I work with very motivated entrepreneurs who want to take their business to the next level. So, Tim, we are here to talk about a really exciting subject. And what is conflict resolution? Help me out.
Wow, that's a tough one.
It's a loaded question.
It is. Well, I mean, it might be helpful if I say what it's not.
Perfect.
Right? Because conflict resolution is really, well, here's what it's not. It's not justice. It's not about being right. It's not about winning the argument. It's about resolving the conflict, right? And conflict is, sounds brutal when you talk about a conflict, but it really can be considered drama. And a lot of what I philosophize around, it came from Dr. Steve Karpman with a K. And I really believe in Karpman's drama triangle. And you can read all his stuff. You can Google it and find it on the internet. But it's fascinating, right?
It is very cool. Trust me, I've learned from Tim, and it's incredibly important. It's great for business and for life. So he's not just addressing, business needs with sales. He's also talking about your life.
Yeah. So, when there's drama in your life, it's fun to think about, where does it come from, right? And what Dr. Karpman said is, look, it comes from one of three places. You're either a persecutor, a rescuer, or a victim.
Okay.
Right? And if you think about it, that's the only three ways that you can get into a dramatic conversation with somebody or a dramatic situation. And I'll talk a little bit about the exit from that drama also.
Good.
Right? But
we need the exit.
Because that's what it's really about, is resolving the conflict so that cooler heads can prevail. Right. Once the emotion and the anxiety associated with the drama isn't there, then you can, hopefully find your way to resolution.
Right.
So if you think about it, like, why does it exist? Why is it okay? And the reason is because we were told when we were kids. I mean, think about your favorite fairy tale. What's your favorite fairy tale?
Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
So who was the victim in Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs?
Snow White.
Who was the rescuer?
The prince.
The
and
hero,
the dwarves.
right?
Yeah.
And the dwarves.
And the
right?
dwarves,
Fair
yeah.
enough. And the roles can change, right? You can change roles inside the drama triangle, and you can assume any level, right? Who's the persecutor in Snow White?
The Wicked Witch.
Got to have a hero, you got to have a victim, and you got to have a villain.
Okay.
The villain is the persecutor, right? The victim is obvious, and the hero is the rescuer.
Right.
Then you roll into the educational system. I think about when you were a kid. Why do you go to school in the first place?
Well, to get an education, to learn what you need to function in the world.
So the educational system has told you don't know what you need to know.
Right.
You're the victim.
Right.
Who rescues you?
The teacher.
Hopefully.
Well,
right?
hopefully, yeah.
So they hopefully rescue you. But what if they fail to rescue you? What if you get a bad grade on a test? What do they tell you?
That you're not smart.
You get a D.
You get a D.
You get an F. And all of a sudden, they're persecuting you. So if we fail to teach you because you're such a bad victim, then we'll take it one step further and persecute you.
We'll
Matter of fact, if you're
persecute
really bad at this, we'll kick you out. I mean, what a message that sends to
College.
kids, which is, hey, this is conflict, this is drama.
Right.
And it stays with us into adulthood. And think about politics. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Who's the victim in politics?
The voter.
The voter's the victim. And who's going to rescue that poor
Politician.
voter?
The politician.
politician. But who's the persecutor?
The person they're running against.
Right, the other politician. Right? Right. So this drama is everywhere. at
Everywhere we
night.
look.
And what makes it really funny is that there's a payoff for playing that persecutor.
Right. And it's a juicy payoff.
What's the payoff for the persecutor, do you think? What do they get if they tell
They
you?
get to be right.
They get to be right.
They get to feel like they're superior, that their opinion means more than yours does.
Yeah. And these persecutors will go around shoulding all over people. Shoulding.
Shoulding.
S-H-O-U-D. Shoulding. Right? And you see this all the time, right? You tell somebody, I'm going to a movie, and they say, you know what you should see?
Right.
Hey, I'm going to go read a book. Oh, you know what you should read? I'm going on vacation. You know where you should go? They can't wait.
I'll never say to you, you should read this, Tim.
Well, you can empower me. You don't have to
Right.
enable me. But the persecutors get the payoff of being right, and the victim gets a weird payoff. So I'll just give it to you. The payoff for a victim is they get people to do things for them without having to ask for it. Right. So the more
People just volunteer to step in and rescue them or enable them.
yeah, and for people like me, the biggest trap for me was always the rescuer. You know, I couldn't wait to be the hero. Right. I would tie the kitchen towel around my neck and fly around like a superhero in the kitchen.
Because you wanted to be that.
I wanted to rescue. I'm always looking for the victim, so I'm part of the problem. Because if I find somebody to save,
Right.
then I get the payoff of being helpful, of being needed.
Right.
Right? So the victim gets the payoff of getting things done for him. The rescuer gets the payoff of being the hero. And the persecutor gets the payoff of being right, which is awesome to them. Right? Now, so that's where the problem
It's
exists.
unhealthy habits and unhealthy thinking patterns.
Yeah.
Very unhealthy.
So let's talk about how you get into this crazy
Okay.
drama triangle.
Please.
And this is the 4 dimensions, right?
Okay.
So the first dimension is somebody invites you in. They invite you in by being a persecutor. When
So
they persecute.
is it always a persecutor who invites you in? Oh,
No, not necessarily. So it's a great question.
okay.
Right? So they can be a persecutor. They can yell at you. And you
Okay.
have a choice, right? You can be the victim or you can be the rescuer.
Right.
You might get drawn in because somebody tries to be a victim.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, woe is me. I can't figure this out. Will you please help me?
Right.
And my rescuer mentality says, jump into the drama triangle, Tim,
How
and
can
solve
I
all their
help?
problems.
How can I help?
That's what salespeople can't wait to do, right? Here's all my features and benefits.
This is true.
Yeah.
And that's how you teach them to have that self-control, not to come in and rescue.
Right.
I remember that from
Right.
hearing you speak.
And you can do it as a rescuer, too. If you try to rescue people, if you try to help them without their permission, think of how condescending that really is. You
It's
know,
horrible.
Yeah, it's horrible.
You're trying to be
Yeah.
right.
So that's the first dimension. Somebody invites you in, and you don't have to go in, and I'll show you how to avoid going in.
Okay.
But the second dimension is you invite people in. You're a jerk. You're a persecutor, right? You're a victim. Or maybe, you try to rescue people without their permission. And you should expect the same visceral reaction. When you invite them in, they'll usually come in because of, like I talked about, in fairy tales and movies and education and politics, we've been told it's okay. It's normal.
Right.
Right? So that's a problem. The third dimension is really kind of cool because the third dimension is you're in this all alone. Right? You victimize yourself. Oh, woe is me. You persecute yourself. I don't know about you, but on occasion, I'm hard on myself.
I am. I'm harder on me than anybody else will ever be.
And then every now and then I pull myself out of it by rescuing myself.
You rescue how? Give me an example. Quick example of how do you rescue you?
Well, let's take it really deep, right?
Okay.
Sometimes the rescuer can be alcohol,
Okay.
right? I can run away. And that's the perfect rescuer. Right?
So
Not
a
feeling
substance.
So good. Yeah, maybe it's eating
Or
bad.
gambling or eating. Okay, so there's any number of things that could
Yeah.
be your quote unquote go to as a rescue.
It's always been a stupid joke of mine. Not feeling so good, eat bad. It'll make you feel better. That doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't work either.
No,
Don't try
it
it.
doesn't work.
Don't try this at home.
I'm not suggesting it. I'm just people are hard on themselves. That's
Right.
the third dimension, and
Right.
the fourth dimension is really kind of quantum physics like, and
We like that. Einstein time.
it really is. And when I started talking about this with my friends and with my clients, and got their opinion, somebody actually came up with the fourth dimension for me. I'd never thought of it, and the idea was, it's safe to say that if I'm being hard on myself, that other people are being hard on themselves.
True.
So sometimes when somebody's persecuting you, it has nothing to do with you,
It has to do with them.
everything to do with themselves.
So it's an internal dialogue within themselves, but you're getting the projection,
Yeah,
but you don't know that unless you know that.
unless you're aware.
Right.
Unless you're intentionally aware.
Right.
So imagine Jane walks into work one day and you walk in and you say, "Hey, Jane," and she says, "Where's that report that you were supposed to give me?"
Right.
And she yells at you and you think, "Wow, Jane's not very nice."
Right.
Right. And
But
then
that's not really the issue.
where you walk into the break room and somebody comes up and says, "Hey, did you hear Jane's husband filed for divorce over the weekend?" And now you have a little bit more knowledge, and it turns out
Window.
the reason that Jane was angry is she was in the fourth dimension, and she persecuted you, inviting you into the drama triangle, and you jumped on in there and you got angry at her, and it was never about you, and it wasn't about the report either.
Right. It was about her within herself.
Yeah, right. So this is kind of the genesis, right? Is there's a problem, and then one of the four dimensions is the invitation into the drama triangle. And the cool thing to think about here is, can you avoid ever going into the drama triangle in the first place? And then if you do wind up in there, can you get out?
Can you extricate yourself? Can you pull
Yeah.
yourself back and have that, as you said, intentional awareness, an intentional thought process that's kind of sifting through the simple 3 points?
Yeah. And at risk of being the rescuer here, okay? Yes, you can. So let me
I
try
can help you with that. I
Let
can help
me-
you with that.
And I try to avoid saying I can help you with that.
Right.
But rather-
you're big on that. I like that.
I can, if you want to discover a way out, I'll go with you. Right? I'll empower you. If you want help, you'll need to find another rescuer. But if you want to dig in on what we're talking about here today, and you want to discover, if you want to admit to yourself that there is a way out, then I'll go with you, and I won't quit. And if you quit, I'll help you get back on the path.
And this is coaching. That's what coaching is about, is taking a stand for somebody and you don't quit. You don't give up on them. You know that they have that personal power. They're capable of doing it, and you just have to walk them through. So
There you go.
Tim does a great job of coaching too.
So let's talk about what's going to spark. What's the catalyst for that drama? It's usually a problem or a challenge, right? And the problem or challenge is, what does that cause usually?
Most people, anxiety. Like a
Anxiety
feeling of
or emotion.
unrest or, some sort of upsettedness.
Yeah. And now we got to think about, okay, so there's a problem, and then there's anxiety or emotion caused by the problem, and then there's the way we react. What do you think we're reacting to, the problem or the anxiety?
Probably the anxiety,
So
because we're really uncomfortable.
I think you're right. Let's talk about animal instinct, right? Because we're animals. What does a lion do when faced with anxiety? It fights.
Yeah.
Right? What does a gazelle do when it's faced with anxiety?
Flee.
It flees. What does a turtle do when it's faced with anxiety?
Freezes.
It curls up inside of its shell, right? So flight or fight or flight or freeze are
Right.
the animal instincts that God gave us to protect us from problems. Survival was the most important thing.
Isn't that part of ego?
Yeah, I think ego might be what keeps us in the conflict, because the
Right.
lion's smart enough to fight, the gazelle's smart enough to run, and
Right.
the turtle's
Freezes.
freezes. Hide, brother, hide.
Right.
Right? So there's the problem. But the thing is that we are fully evolved human beings. Right? So there must be a
We're not
better
animals.
way.
Right.
We're not animals.
Right. We can think, we can do that intentional,
Yeah.
purposeful thinking and awareness.
Yeah. So instead of concentrating on what we don't want the problem, we don't want the anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
right? We can concentrate on what we want.
Right.
And I like- Go
And
ahead.
why would we want to do that, as opposed to focusing on what you don't want or focusing on what you do want? Because whatever you focus on, you're going to get more of. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm a big believer in that.
Yeah. Law of attraction.
Yeah. And it's as simple as, what are you in life? Are you an avoider or are you an achiever?
Right.
Some people, I used to go to the gym because I wanted to achieve ripped abs.
Right.
Now I go to the gym because I want to avoid being fat. Right? And there's a very big difference.
Big difference.
And the cool thing here is, when you think about it, if you react to the problem instead of reacting to the emotion, then the solution becomes sustainable instead of temporary.
Right. In
If
other
you-
words, a response instead of a reaction. Like reaction, I think of as knee jerk. You just do something and you haven't thought about it. But a response is, like I tell my daughter, I love you, Taylor. I take a deep breath and I stop and I think about it for a minute. Do I really want to do this?
Right.
Where's this going to lead?
Well, and think about the example that you got out of me earlier, right? If I'm in my own third dimension and I'm not feeling so hot and I decide to have a drink, okay, I might start feeling better, but does my problem go away?
No,
The anxiety may temporarily.
Or it may make the problem worse depending upon what the dynamic is in which you're having alcohol.
Yeah. And if I sober up, the problem's still there. So the whole idea is we've got to realize that we're fully evolved human beings and we don't have to just fight or flight or freeze.
Right.
So now we're stuck in this drama triangle, and let me talk about the exit.
Yes,
right?
please.
Well, let me talk about how not to get in it first. And by the way,
Okay.
how not
Avoid.
to get in it is the same way to how to get out of it. Isn't that cool?
Yes. That way, it's easier for all of us to remember. This should be good.
There are only 3 doors in:
Right.
persecutor, rescuer, or
And
victim.
right.
So in persecutor, and really what this all comes down to is choice. All right?
True.
And here's what I frame the choice as: everybody holds the ace. And the ace
Love this.
is how you stay out of it.
Right.
Okay, A-C-E. Right? Now, whether you choose to play the ace is up to you, but everybody holds it. So here's what I mean. When it comes to persecution, when it comes to rules, sometimes you have to enforce the rules, but you have a choice with how you enforce the rules. You can be aggressive, and that's persecutorial, or you can be assertive, which is kind of nice, right? It's okay to hold people accountable for rules,
True.
right? That's the A, assertive, right? Now, when it comes to being the victim, you can decide you want to be a victim, and you can
Stay
ask
there.
people to enable you,
Right.
right? Or you can victimize people. But the reality is you still have a choice. And the choice is this: no matter how bad your situation is, right, you can either choose to be defined by your past or your present circumstances, or you can choose to define your own future. And if you choose to define your own future, you may find somebody to help you stay assertive, right? To be assertive with you, to help you stay on the path. And you may find somebody to empower you. But don't look for somebody to enable you,
Right.
right? And don't act like a victim.
Don't need help.
Yeah,
you
and
need
sometimes
to
the
need to figure it out. That's that
Yeah.
part of, you know what that is? That to me is part of being completely self-aware.
Yeah,
Being aware of your bad habits, your thinking, the things that have flushed you down the toilet so many times you can't remember.
yeah.
And stepping out of that and just saying, you know what, I choose differently.
You choose differently, right? And if you don't, if you act like the victim and you find somebody that'll yell at you about it, then you've just validated that you belong there,
Right.
And sometimes, the victim, the circumstances are awful. There's one great example that I was using before this person was a very well-known person, but I can tell you, let me give you the ultimate victim example. Okay. Well, let me talk about the E first,
Okay.
right? And then I'll give you the example.
Got it.
So the E is, if you think about a rescuer, the quintessential rescuer is an enabler.
Right.
And if you enable people, you don't get rid of the problem.
You're not helping them.
So the E is empower. And you do have a choice. You can enable people or you can empower them. And I really like to think of this one as like the coach, right? A good coach doesn't play in the game. A coach empowers his team to play the game, face adversity, overcome that adversity, prepare for it ahead of time, be honest about it after it's occurred,
Exactly.
and not let it happen again. Right? And that's what a good coach does. And then during the game, all he needs to do is be assertive and shout encouragement. Right? And encourage people not to be victims.
Right.
Define your future. It's not over. All that good coaching has always been right in front of us. We just didn't have a definition. So there's your ace. Now let me talk about the ultimate victim, right? This is just a story that's real.
Okay.
Right? If you came back from Afghanistan with both your legs blown off, it's hard to argue with the idea that that's pretty
You
devastating.
Could feel pretty crappy. Yeah.
And if you decided to be a victim the rest of your life in that scenario, nobody would blame you. They'd still call you a hero. They'd enable you. They'd push you around in a wheelchair. They'd give you all the drugs that you want to ease your pain,
You'd get the Medal of Honor for doing whatever you did.
whatever you
Yep.
did.
Yeah.
But if, on the other hand, you decided to not let that define you,
Right.
but to choose your own future, you could learn to walk on double prosthetics. It would be hard. And you would have to probably surround yourself with people that would hold you accountable and be
Right.
assertive
Right.
and encourage you.
And not enable you to
Sometimes
be
not enable
the
you.
victim.
Yeah. Empower you, though. You know, coach you and keep
Push
you on
you.
the right path and push you and pick you up when you fall, but not enable you, empower you.
Yeah.
And then if you learn to walk on those double prosthetics, you might have a great family. Matter of fact, you might even run for Congress.
Yeah, think.
Congressman Brian Mast, the 18th Congressional District right here in South Florida.
Hi, Brian.
I mean, I don't even know the guy, but I can tell you this, he's not a victim.
Nope. Not by
And-
any means.
And he's making a choice, and his choice is, I can be in charge of my own future, and I cannot quit.
And he's not only the example for his life, but he's helping other people to
Yeah.
be empowered just by the way he walks
Sure.
and lives and is, his way of being.
So that story I told earlier about those poor politicians trying to rescue people, that
That's-
wasn't
that wasn't him.
No. He's among the good ones, right?
Exactly.
So,
yes.
well, that's what we're going to hope for.
Yes.
And, you know, we can empower him. Or
Right.
we can sit around and complain about what's going on.
Nope.
You know, that's not going to be helpful.
Complaining never solves any issue.
Yeah.
It never resolves conflict.
Yeah.
Complaining is part of the problem. Complaining every day, you wake up, there's something wrong, or you're looking for what isn't right. What's not good about this situation?
Which leads me to the last piece of this, right?
Let's hear it.
When you decide, I'm no longer going into the drama triangle,
Right.
how do you think that's going to be accepted around the people around you?
Not so well. In fact, they're probably going to fight back. They're not going to be happy
Yeah.
with you, right?
When somebody tries to help you, they expect you to be helped.
Right.
When somebody acts like a victim, they expect you to help them.
Yeah.
When somebody yells at you, they expect you to either rescue them or at a minimum, freeze, turtle, freeze.
Right.
I'm going to victimize you.
Right.
And when you decide, I'm not going to do that, I've got this new ACE strategy and I'm going to play my ACE, and you decide to present yourself as vulnerable and assertive and empowering,
Right.
you've all of a sudden changed the game. And what you should expect is what I've come to call the TV remote control syndrome.
I love this example.
Well,
You
this
have to
is
hear. You just have to get this.
well, this plays out for me often, right? So you're sitting on your couch, Faith, at home, and you point your remote control at the
Right.
TV, and you press channel, and nothing happens.
Right.
What do you do?
Press it again. Press it harder.
Nothing happens.
Press it again.
Nothing happens.
Shake it. Try a different angle.
Different angle.
Right.
Yeah, maybe mash some other buttons.
So check the volume. Hey, what's going on with this thing?
Does it ever occur to you that it's entirely your fault?
Never. Never. It's a TV remote.
So
really?
somebody must have broke it. Who touched
Who
it
touched the
last?
remote control?
Who had this? Where were those children? What have they done to me, right? I'm a victim. That you might even go as far as to take the batteries out,
Twist them.
mess with
Remove
the
'em.
energy,
Yeah. Right.
put them back in.
Right.
And then, you know, the absolute last resort is get up off the couch, walk to the kitchen, and change
some
the batteries,
Battery.
right? Now, let's say you do that, though. You come back into the living room and you press the button and it still doesn't work. Whose fault is it?
It's not mine.
It's anybody's but yours.
But
right?
mine.
And the reason I think this is funny, it's a great story to tell, is when you decide you're no longer going to walk the path, when you're no longer going to be inside of the Cartman's drama triangle,
Right.
then the people around you are going to react like that. When they come to you and they persecute you, what do they expect you to do?
Your old pattern.
Your old
Whatever you
pattern.
used to do, whether you froze or fled or fought back, they're just they're gonna expect that old reaction. So when you give a new reaction, they're kind of like, "What are you doing?
Yeah.
What's wrong with you?"
They might
So
just increase
are
their
they
own volume. Right? Push the button harder.
Push the button harder. Yell louder. Talk longer. Whatever.
They may even try a different tact. If you try to persecute me and I don't act like the victim, right, you may become the victim. Changing roles inside the drama triangle is totally legal.
Right.
Now you become the victim, you're asking me to do what? To rescue you.
Right.
And this is when you start messing with my energy, right? You've mashed other buttons. You've tried other angles. You've tried now assuming the role. You know, I can't believe you've treated me like this.
Right.
Right? It must be you.
Poor
You're
me.
supposed to save me. Now you're
Right.
playing the victim, and I don't know how to handle this.
Right. It's like
stay
tilt,
outside.
tilt, tilt. Don't
Stay
know.
outside.
Right.
They may even
Stay calm.
they may even get up and walk away. They may go to the kitchen and look for different energy.
Right.
They may mess with somebody else. They may throw your remote.
That happens if there's another person
Yeah.
in the space, then that's pretty common, is to figure out, okay, who else can I project onto?
Yeah. Remember I said, who else could it be? It couldn't possibly
Right.
be me.
Right.
It couldn't possibly be, I couldn't be the last one
I'm
that
not the
touched
problem.
it.
I'm not the problem.
Could I be the one that broke the remote?
Yeah.
You ever slapped the remote?
Well, maybe.
Have you ever thrown the remote?
No, I haven't. That one I haven't done.
Denials, not just a river in Egypt.
Yeah, I know. I'm not throwing remotes though. You threw
Yeah.
the remote, not me.
I've thrown it, I've slapped it, I've blamed the children, and shame on me for doing that. You know, the day after I discovered Cartman's Drama Triangle, my kids had just gathered for a women's soccer game.
Right.
And I sat down on the couch on Saturday morning and grabbed the remote or couldn't find the remote.
Got to.
And, you know, it was kind of funny because I immediately jumped into Cartman's Drama Triangle and said,
Blah, blah,
"Where's
blah.
the remote?"
Where's the remote? That's great.
And my daughter walked through and said, "It wasn't me, it was my other daughter.
Mm-hmm.
They were watching the soccer game."
The blame game.
And I realized that I had entered the second dimension as the persecutor and tried to victimize the children.
Yeah.
So I backed out because I realized I had this new strength.
What you'd just done. And
I have a choice.
You were empowered to choose differently and step out of that mess.
So I apologized.
Awesome. Love that. Apologies. Wow, they go a long way to really building bridges.
Yeah.
So, Tim, give us a website, phone number, someplace where we can contact you, so our viewers and our listeners can get in touch with you. And even if they watch this Facebook page later on AMP2 TV Productions or the Faith Washington show page, they can get this. But tell us.
All right. Well, I'm Tim Goring, Goering, and you can find my website at makingluck.sandler.com. That's makingluck.sandler.com. And making luck is, I don't believe in luck. I believe in
I agree.
the power to make luck. Luck is when careful preparation meets opportunity.
Yeah.
And I use the Sandler training system that was invented by David Sandler, and I got to give him credit. Because an amazing man that had an amazing career and involved all these other amazing people like Dr. Steve Cartman. And I'm just taking their information and then using it.
Yes,
where
actually
they
applying
probably
it.
wanted us to.
Right, applying it. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Thank you, Tim, for being on the show. Hopefully, you'll come back again. This is Faith Washington. You can reach me at 561-702-3986. You can see this show again on the Faith Washington Show page on Facebook. We're also streaming live on 95.3 FM and 1470 AM. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye. You've been listening and watching The Faith Washington Show, where we have widened your view of the world. Our guests share their business, family, and fun life hacks to make your world better. Hope you've learned something to apply to your life and business. And join me every Wednesday night at 7 p.m.
The opinions expressed on the preceding sponsored program